know, we have 4 members today. 2 are online on the meeting there. Plus we might have public comment that way too. So with 4 members, a tie vote is a no. So just so everybody's aware of that when they're coming up for their appeal. Yeah, so first thing is our previous chairman has just retired after many years of sterling service to the board here, Tony Zamparelli. So we need to reorganize. So I'm going to hand this over to Adam Flager.
All right, so we're going to reorganize tonight. As Peter said, Tony Zamparelli was the chair, so we need a new chair, and then as a result, a new vice chair and new secretary. I want to thank Tony for his years of service. Everyone on this board is a volunteer, and they spend a lot of time every single month for the benefit of all of the residents of this township. So I want to thank everyone on this board, but I especially want to thank Tony for I think over a dozen years on the board. So I will call for nominations for the position of chairperson.
I nominate Pete.
I'll second that nomination.
Nomination by Matt for Pete Solar and second by Jim. Any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
That didn't take long. It's just embarrassing.
Okay, the next position that we need to have is the vice chairman. So we will now entertain nominations for the vice chair.
I would like to nominate Matt.
Second. Any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Matt, you're now the vice chair. And lastly, we need to have a secretary. So entertaining nominations for secretary.
I nominate Judy. I think she should be glad to do it.
Any seconds or any other nominations?
Second.
Any other nominations? Mike, I'm looking at you here.
Mike, you're muted.
I'm muted.
Oh, now you're on.
No, I just didn't say anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Judy's not here, but she has plenty of experience on boards. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we are through the reorganization then. First up is Appeal 22-1964, Shiju Vadakat and Stacy Vadakat Jacob. Can you please come forward, sit down and be sworn in, and Adam will do the exhibits.
Just make sure you pull the microphone close.
You're gonna need to grab the microphone, but yes.
Each state and spell your full name.
Shiju Vadakat. First name is spelled S-H-I-J-U. Last name is Vadakat. It's V-A-D-A-K-O-T.
Stacy Jacob Vadakat. S-T-A-C-Y-J-A-C-O-B V-A-D-A-K-O-T.
Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Mark the exhibits quickly. We have the application as A1, the site plans as A2, B1 proof of publication, B2 proof of posting, and B3 is the notice to the neighbors.
So please explain what it is you're looking for. Oh, one thing I do want to add here, which has been reviewed, so because it's come up a few times, your impervious calculation, your permitted impervious is significantly higher than what you wrote on your application. So I know you didn't apply for a variance, but in case anybody was looking at the documentation, was confused. So go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to the chair, vice chair, and the secretary. We live on 300 Fraser Drive. We've been living there since 2012. With my parents, aging and having some difficulty walking, we wanted to build an extension to our house so that we can accommodate some changes to our family. We also have 3 kids that are fighting over a single bathroom in the first floor, in the second floor, I'm sorry. And we wanted to build out an additional bathroom there as well. So that's really what we're trying to do. Because we have a corner lot, and even though our lot is the similar size as others on the street, we're considered to have 2 front streets. And so that reduces the building envelope. And so that's really the hardship that we have here that we're hoping to get an exception for.
Okay, any questions from the board?
So is this a 1-story or a 2-story addition?
It's a 2-story addition.
2-story addition, okay.
Right.
And you're planning on keeping the existing trees there along Stony Hill as a buffer?
So, yes, okay. I'm sorry, that's David Zayas, he's our architect.
Okay.
Yeah. We love the trees, so we will do what we can.
Like to keep those, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you hoping that this addition performs like an in-law suite? Will there be a kitchen in there?
There will be no kitchen. The idea is just, so that they can have a bedroom on the first floor and a bathroom.
Okay. And Pete, you said that the impervious coverage is higher than through here.
Yes, yeah, Jim, the percentage is 32 that's allowed, correct?
Yeah, the recorded plan for this development allows an impervious surface of 32%. I believe they're around 19 point something. So they're
Yeah.
well within the requirements.
Okay, all right, cool. And is this already built into the detention system over there? If I remember
yes.
correctly, there's a pond that's across the street.
Yeah, that's the reasoning behind that split in 1987 between the lower impervious surface number
Okay.
and the higher ones for developments afterward, is that the developments after 1987 all had stormwater management built into the development that could adequately handle all the runoff up to that 32% number.
Okay, cool. I have no further questions.
Okay, is there any public comment from the crowd that's here? All right, any public comment online?
No public comment online.
Okay, I guess we'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that appeal number 22-1964 be approved as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you are. You're good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up is Appeal 22-1965, Megan and James Abriola. If you're here, you can come up to the microphones, get sworn in.
State and spell your full name, please.
Can you get the mic? Because we can't pick it. They can't pick you up for remote.
Would you each state and spell your full name, please?
Megan Abriola, MEGAN
James Abriola, JAMES ABRIOLA.
You both solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
All right,
Pam's going to mark the exhibits.
we have the application as A1, site plan as A2. And we have the impervious surface breakdown as A3, B1, proof of publication, B2, proof of posting, and B3, notice to the neighbors.
Okay, would you like to explain to the board what it is you're looking to do?
Sure. So we have our driveway, but then we wanted to put an extension of the driveway. We have a travel trailer that we wanted to be able to have there. And then even at some point, if we don't have that, we have 3 children and we have an in-law suite. So between the amount of cars, and sometimes Jim has another vehicle for work. So just having extra space for parking as well.
Okay. Take questions from the board, and I believe there's going to be questions.
So I'm looking at your stormwater management.
Mhm.
It appears that it's strictly using trees.
Yeah, we have a lot of trees on our property. We had a landscaping company that, our architectural landscaping company that did the the stormwater management numbers and stuff. And they were saying that the amount of trees that we have on our property and surrounding that area would cover what needed to be done for stormwater management.
So historically, the boards tends to go with trees if it's like less than 1% or right around 1%.
Okay.
Would you guys be up for a seepage bed to capture some of the stormwater coming off some of the improvements, primarily the house or the in-law suite?
Yeah, also we're a corner lot that our driveway's higher than the road and there's 2 water drain things there. I don't know.
And I mean, we would be open to what you need us to do, but we also had, like, our neighbor has a French drain right along our property line as well.
Yeah, but the explanation is a drainage that corresponds to your improvements. It could either be strip alongside the driveway. It could connect to
Yeah.
your drainage from the roof. I don't know if Matt would like to talk some more on it.
I think James hit on it. It's, if you're, it's great that your neighbor has stuff, but what we're looking for is something from your proposed driveway to mitigate it. So, if you want to grab it off the roof, which is great because it's clean, stick it back into the ground. I'm sure our town engineer can help you size something that's appropriate.
Okay.
But yeah, it's what's on site is what we're looking for.
Okay, so what was it called that you were saying?
It's a drain, it's a seepage bed
Okay.
to help mitigate the stormwater management. Our township engineer can definitely help you guys with it. And
Okay.
we can, if you're willing to do it, we can most likely, we can vote on your plan tonight.
And actually, Jim Majewski can do a little explanation here about what you would probably need to mitigate.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, what they would do is they would dig a trench that would be maybe a representative size would be 2 feet deep by 3 feet wide by about 30 feet long. So basically alongside your driveway, just downstream of it, so that the water runs off right into there. And it could be a little depression in the grass, or you could line it with riverjack stone, which would actually allow you a little extra room to over park if you need to.
Okay.
And that would be adequate to handle the runoff from all of the impervious surface on your property.
Sure. That's fine.
I do have a question for Jim here. Is there any setback limitations, but where they're showing this driveway with it set only 14 feet back from the street?
I think usually we want it to be a minimum of 10 feet back, so I think they're more than adequate there.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right. Any questions from the public that's here? Comments? Online? Okay. All right, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 22-1966.
6-5.
So 6-5. Oh, sorry, 6-5. Subject to stormwater mitigation back to the 18% from, what is the proposed?
21.1.
Thank you, 21.1%.
I'll second that.
Any comment, discussion?
I'm just I'm gonna add to my own, subject to review and approval by the township engineer.
I guess my only comment is, guys, you can do this seepage bed adjacent to the driveway like Jimmy talked about, or you can do it coming off the house. We can catch stormwater there. So just to let you know, you have options where this stormwater, where this seepage bed is going to go.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, any public comment? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, you passed and you're good to go. Thanks
Thank
for
you very
coming.
much.
I'm sorry, I forget to keep asking you each time. I don't know. All right. Next up is Appeal 22-1966, Jessica Festa and Tim Volpe. If you can come up here and get sworn in.
Can you state your full names, please?
Sure. Tom Volpe, TOMVOLPE.
Jessica Festa, JESSICA FESTA.
You both solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay, Adam, label the exhibits.
Sure. We have the application as A1, site plans as A2. Proof of publication is B1. Proof of posting is B2, and B3, notice to the neighbors.
Okay, go ahead and explain what it is you want to do.
Hi, good evening. So we are looking right now to remove the deck that is on the back of our house and build a one-story addition. Part of the reason why we are appealing is because we would like to increase our household space. We have 2 children. We don't have really a family room or a great room for our kids. We're looking to increase home time, spend time with our kids, as well as host family gatherings. When we measured out the impervious space, I believe it's only over 3.4%. So we were hoping that it would be appealed.
Well, I think you know where this is going after you watch the last one.
I think I do.
I just want to, I have a question before we get into that. So you have your existing front walk is on the plan is 1,326 square feet and your existing driveway is 260 square feet. I'm thinking that was juxtaposed. Yes? No?
I believe so.
In other words, the driveway is clearly much bigger than your walkway. So
Yeah.
what do we do to fix that, guys? Jim, just make a note or
Nothing. When they submit the plan, they just need to make that correction, put the numbers in the right area. By eye, we just knew what the numbers were. Didn't read it, just checked the numbers and they matched. So,
And for the purposes of the variance, it's the numbers that matter. So.
Yeah.
The total.
So basically, you're right where the prior people were. You can sit down with Jim
Okay.
and come up with a stormwater management plan, most likely a seepage bed.
Okay.
And Jim can walk you through different places that might make sense for you. You'll have the ability to make the final decision on where it's located, but it has to make sense. In other words, assuming there's multiple places that can catch water, then you can decide if it turns out that based on how your lot grades, maybe there's only small certain areas, but Jim will help you work through that.
Okay, very well. Thank you.
Any other comment from the board? Any public comment? It's a very quiet crowd tonight. Any comment online? Nope. Okay. All right, then we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Appeal 1966, pending stormwater management, taking the impervious surface from the proposed 21.4% back to 18%, and pending township engineer approval.
Second.
Any comments from the board? Any public comments? You fine with that? Okay. We're up for a vote again. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that means there's nobody opposed and you're passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. Next up is Appeal 22-1967. Darren Bodolowski.
Good evening.
If you're going to testify, you need to be sworn in if you're with him, yes.
Would you each state and spell your full name, please?
Sure, Darren Bodolowski, DARIN BODOLOSKY.
Jason Weaver, JASON WEAVER as applicant.
You both solemnly swear the testimony about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
I affirm.
Adam can do the exhibits, please.
Sure, we have the application as A1, site plans as A2, the reasons for the requested relief as A3, 3D view of the proposed shed as A4, proof of publication B1, proof of posting B2, and B3, the notice to the neighbors.
Okay, so you guys please explain what it is you're looking to do here.
Sure. So as my house is a little bit on the smaller side in the neighborhood, looking to put up a storage facility. Currently have a few classic cars that I'd like to keep out of the elements and out of the driveways and out of the lawns, so it doesn't look like a junkyard. Additionally, I'm looking to get a boat and would like to put that into storage so it doesn't clutter the neighborhood. And keep all of our seasonal and landscaping equipment out of the elements and out of the house if possible. The second part of what we're trying to do is mitigate some stormwater that runs off of other properties and onto ours, as we're one of the most low-lying properties in the area. And if you look at the site plans that were provided, we're going above and beyond the 100-year storm for the entire property so that we can mitigate the runoff from the house, from the proposed storage facility, as well as mitigate all of the standing water. And I have some photos if I can provide those to the panel.
Yes, you certainly can enter them.
And, actually, we weren't aware that there is an issue with impervious surface. So after that was posted on his property, he read it and he's like, oh, okay, there's a variance for the stormwater. So he's got some photos I printed out if you want to, should I pass it up to you?
We should pass them up to here so we can have them enter as exhibits.
So if you look at the site plans as well as the photos, we're going to mitigate all that water to keep it from another neighbor as well. So that it'll at least allow us to keep that water underground, to keep the mosquitoes, et cetera, at bay, as well as be able to use the rest of my property that's not a mud pit.
Okay.
We can mark, there's two sheets, 4 photographs per sheet, and we can mark that collectively as A5.
Okay, so I'm open the board comment here.
So obviously your lot catches a lot of water.
Yes.
Is what are we looking at here? When we see these pictures, what type of rain event was this following?
So that was just like a week's worth of March, April weather.
Okay, so fair amount of steady rain, would you say? Like, in other words, maybe?
A fair amount of steady rain. It may have been a little bit of a wet season, but nothing
Okay.
out of the ordinary.
So now what I'm trying to figure out is, and I see on your plan where you had estimated 3,100 square foot area of existing flooding area. Is that pretty much what we're looking at? These pictures
Yes.
of that area?
Correct.
So on these plans, are you telling us you have mitigation to stop this flooding? Is that what you're saying?
To at least try to contain it to the 100-year levels, correct?
All right, so I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a little confused, but we do have a couple engineers. We have 3 engineers, 2 on the board, and obviously we have the township engineer here, so they're probably more equipped to actually drill down on this.
So my question to Jim here is the underground detention that's shown on here? What sort of volume is that mitigating for relative to what the property's generating?
We actually weren't provided that information in the packet by the developer. I know the plan shows sheet 1 of 2, but I don't think we got sheet 2 of 2.
Okay.
We can, and I'm sorry about that. That was actually an oversight on my, basically, we just used that plan as a site plan, not as much water mitigation or the pervious. So there is page 2, and it shows the storm tanks being used by Brentwood, 97% capacity, I believe it is. So that page 2 basically just shows details of the inlets, the Brentwood product that's used and all that. I do have a smaller 11 by 17 copy.
Yeah, that
And
would be great.
And unfortunately, we both just found out about the impervious issue when we were mailed the letters. So, and I think I have a copy. You might have a copy. Is it okay, just one copy, or do you want to try to see?
We can take one copy. I mean, you might want to make a suggestion here. We can continue this to a later meeting if you want to pull this information together more.
Right. I think it's spelled out on the first page up on the upper line about the site impervious stormwater structure schedule, et cetera. So this just more or less just adds some details. And the engineer has the square footage and all listed on zoning and site data schedule as 33,500. So it seems like that should give the information needed, but I'll bring these up.
Well, where Pete's really going with this is you have an application that doesn't address stormwater management mitigation. It only addresses the actual height of the subordinate structure. So
And that was something.
Why
we were-
a continuation probably makes the most sense.
And
What did
actually,
you say?
they do have it shown in the plan. We just don't have a calculation to say how much of a volume of water does that really mitigate?
That should be on page 2 that he has.
But you would need to apply for a variance for it, and that's not part of your current application.
Oh, so the announcement said that there was an application for variance of the stormwater, of the impervious.
Yeah, we did advertise it for the impervious surface variance also.
How about that? That's a first.
Thank you.
Yeah, we caught that on that application.
And I think I had previously spoken with Mr. Majewski about the stormwater mitigation because it was, when I purchased the house, it was supposedly they were talking with the township engineers to mitigate it. And when we discussed it, I told him my plans, he was okay with them.
This is just page 2 of 2, so this will still be part of as exhibit A2. And now it's the complete exhibit.
Thank you.
Do you have the total void volume that's associated with this? So we have some sense of what it's being mitigated for, or have you talked about that yet with Jim and his team?
I have not, but my engineer has assured me that it was for the 100-year storm calculations. So it's thousands upon thousands of gallons.
100-year storm for what area? And
For this area, my area.
so for your property or?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So there's really two issues at play here. One's the standard impervious and the other one is the flooding consideration. So I don't, Jim, any explanation on how the fact that this is at the bottom end of the slope and collects water? Well,
I know I have been out to this area of the property. I believe a nearby neighbor had some issues with the stormwater. We had taken a look at it several years ago. And I don't remember talking with Mr. Badalowski, but all these names run together. But I am familiar with that area around Walnut Lane and then the tennis courts.
Yep.
Back along Arbor Lee, and then there is a little bit of a drainage problem back there in the heavier rains, especially in the springtime. So I think the soils are primarily probably all clay.
Correct.
So water doesn't just seep through it. It either sits or it runs. And if it can't run fast enough, it just spreads out and sits.
Jim, I noticed that there's a credit being taken for the pool in the impervious calcs. You see that? Negative.
I believe that credit is just the fact that we do not count the water surface area of a pool as impervious surface. Typically, the reason for that is that when you have a pool within the coping, typically the water isn't right up to that top lip of the pool. It's down maybe 6 inches or more. So it takes a lot of rain to fill up a pool till it starts to overflow. So basically it almost acts like a little mini detention basin until you get a real lot of rain that is abnormal.
I think, Jim, what Matt was saying is it wouldn't be a credit. It just would be lined out unless that 580 is in the total somewhere else, right?
Right. I mean,
So it would
typically-
bump up both percentages, the existing and then correspondingly the proposed would also bump up whatever that percentage is.
I believe when I took a look at that, that number, the concrete number right above of 1,610, I believe that included the area around the pool and the patio and the concrete. And so the pool area is a subtraction from that. I think it is like that 1,030 number.
For the
is area
hardscape.
I got for all the rest of the impervious surface.
Okay.
Okay, all right, cool.
more comment from the board right now? I know that the township is looking to weigh in and that there might be public comment too.
Well, I have concerns about the garage. I mean, it's almost as big as the house. Plus you want it to be 25 feet tall.
Okay, so in order to fit all of my equipment, cars and seasonal landscape equipment, decorations, et cetera, that's about the square footage that I calculated. And for the height is for just cold storage in the attic space.
So this is a peaked roof?
Yes,
Okay. And so if I remember correctly, like 13 and a half feet is the highest vehicle you're going to get.
correct.
And is that the size of your garage doors?
The garage doors will be 12.
So 12. Okay. And then how many vehicles are you looking to stick in here?
I currently have 5.
And they're going to be double deep or? Yeah,
Close
35
to it,
feet,
yeah.
so it's basically double deep. So you have 5.
It's about 1.5. One of my cars is 19 feet long.
Okay.
And actually a comment on that, the building height is 12. The doors themselves are 10 foot tall.
Okay.
And part of the reason was for aesthetics, get away from the low slope roof to make it look a little more residential style, and also to utilize attic room storage up top using attic trusses.
So, I mean, what are you looking to put out on the, I mean, it's essentially a half floor is what you're talking about.
Right. That would be all the Halloween and Christmas, et cetera, decorations and storage cabinets,
Okay.
car parts.
All right. And it's awfully close to the rear alley there.
There's no setback. There, it could be a 0 setback according to the code from the rear alleyway. It's not a main thoroughfare.
Well, that's not correct. It's actually a 10-foot setback
Okay.
that is
So
required.
we're at least 20 feet from,
Yeah, I believe your plan shows an 8-foot concrete slab and then 4.5 feet to the right of way at the near point. So the nearest point is 12.5 feet. And on the other side, it would be about 16 feet.
oh, we can push that back. I can be 20, 25 feet back.
I guess you could push it back from the rear alley. So it's not, I mean, I don't know
Yes.
what else is back there, but it seems like you're getting awfully close to that alley and kind of creating a condition that would be, I don't know, crowding.
Yeah, no, we can push back however far, 20 feet.
I'm sure I have more questions, Pete, but do you want to let Barbara go?
I think I'll let Barbara go. And like I said, I think there might be some public comment here too.
Okay. All right.
So the township is going to provide comment. Questions now?
Township is actually in opposition to the application due to the height of the proposed garage, excuse me, as well as the amount of increase in the impervious surface coverage. It's almost a 6% increase. And the questions I have are, your plan shows a 35 feet by 50-foot slab for the garage, correct?
Yes,
That is going to hold the entire size of the garage?
correct,
So your garage is actually 35 feet by 50 feet.
correct.
And your diagram is showing what appears to be 3 bays to access it.
Yes,
And the height to the peak is proposed to be 25 feet.
correct,
And you're anticipating a second floor storage area,
correct.
as the garage going to have electricity,
Yes,
garage going to have water.
no.
Why would you need a second floor of such great dimensions for storage?
For all of my seasonal items, for car parts, for my classic cars, for tools, et cetera.
Where's everything being stored right now?
Well, Some of it's in the basement, some of it's at friends' houses, some of it's in my garage, some of it's in the backyard, some of it's in the front yard, et cetera.
Do you have a garage right now?
Attached to the house, correct?
And how large is that attached garage?
It's a 2-car garage.
A 2-car garage?
Yes,
And that holds 2 cars right now?
Yes, ma'am.
And you also have a masonry shed in the back?
Yes,
And what's the size of the masonry shed?
I think it's 12 by 14.
So this 35 feet by 50 feet is going to be a whole, almost a third storage facility for you on the property,
Okay. Yes,
correct?
yeah, yes,
Now, your reasons stated you needed the 25 feet height because you intend to also store a trailer.
a trailer and or a boat, yes.
Well, you just testified that you have 5 classic vehicles and a boat you intend to store.
Yes, ma'am.
Where's this trailer?
I don't have one yet,
And when you're saying trailer, what kind of trailer are you talking about?
like an enclosed equipment trailer,
I'm not sure I understand.
like a tag-along trailer for,
Like something a landscaper would use?
yeah, like a cargo trailer, yep.
And you're saying that you need 25 feet high to be able to store that type of vehicle in this proposed garage?
Well, the whole vehicle isn't 25 foot, but the door space that I need for it, plus the added extra height for the attic storage space totals 25 foot.
Now, your photographs that you presented show the flooding on the property before this garage has even been considered, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're saying that you have stormwater facilities proposed that is going to mitigate the flooding.
Yes, ma'am. It's going to help mitigate, yes.
Okay, based on the fact that there's no calculations yet provided, do you have any idea how much water those stormwater facilities are going to hold?
I think that was on the second sheet that we handed you.
Well, I saw diagrams and specs, but I don't see any calculations. So has anybody performed any formal calculations to say, if we put in a drainage ditch of X number of feet, it'll hold so much cubic feet of water?
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody has done that.
Yes, I had a civil engineer do that.
And those calculations have not been submitted separately to the township?
I think they're on page 1, right? Are they on page 1?
Well, they should have been included with the, says proposed improvements, and then the, it's a bit unclear, but it shows the bed, the seepage bed, which uses the storm tanks, and they are a 97% capacity, and there are 85 units. 85 of those units are placed in that square.
So that square that you're talking about, is that the cross-hatched square in the
Yes.
area where the estimated existing flooding issue occurs?
That's correct.
And are these storage pipes or whatever you call them,
They're storage tanks, yes.
storage tanks, are they in,
They're in the ground,
they're
correct?
in the ground right now? And how-
No, not right now. That's proposed.
That's proposed. And how
Yes.
many of these storage tanks are supposed to be going in?
I think 85 or 90.
They are actually a modular system that gets placed. They're made by Brentwood. That's, it's noted on the, it shows on the second page. the
Yeah, that
storm
second
tank.
page we put in shows you what one module's
Okay.
volume.
Okay, it does, and we just did the extension here. So using what it has, it's 1,105 cubic feet capacity.
And what I wanted to ask is, what you're proposing to install
Yes,
was designed to mitigate this water?
yes,
correct?
ma'am.
But you did not do calculations to include any additional water that could be generated as a result of that garage being installed?
No, that's all included in those calculations.
So you're saying your stormwater calculations for this facility includes existing and what's proposed?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, not having those calculations reviewed by anybody, I'm still hesitant.
Hey, Jim, if with 1105, if they're actually capturing that with this system, what would that bring their effective rate down to?
I'll calculate that now. And what was the number that you came up with?
It's 1,105 cubic feet of capacity.
That is
I thi-
substantial.
I think there's two different things here. One is the impervious and the other is the flood, and they're kind of interacting with each other. The 100-year storm and the impervious are two separate issues. They're trying to get mashed together. There are two different calculation sets.
Are those calculation sets distinguished on that page too?
No. So I think that's what Jim's trying to do right now, is trying to figure that out.
So what I would ask this board to do, and I understand the applicant's request, but I really do believe that the calculations that are being provided should have a separate review done by the township's engineer to assure of the amount of water that's going to be captured by this proposed stormwater facility. Because the photographs show an extensive amount of water sits on the property as it is right now. And that's a huge garage that's going to be installed if accepted by this board.
Pete, how did you figure out that volume? Because there's 3 modules from Storm Tank. There's like a 20, a 25, and a Pro.
The drawing he handed to us here actually X'd out all but one of the tanks.
Okay.
It's the ST36, and he gave us a count 85, which does match what his plan is.
Okay.
I think it's 13 cubic feet per, there's 85. 85 units at 13 per.
Yeah. I do agree with Barbara. I'd really like to understand what the totals are and how it's, I'm more than confident there's mitigation for the garage in here. I just want to understand it better.
I can provide all that information to you, and they will be stamped and engineered stamped plans too.
Actually, to point something out to you here, you have even more capacity than that because you have this wrapped in a layer of stone that's a geotextile around, which gives you even more void space. So
I asked it to be over-engineered because of the amount of water coming through the neighborhood. I'm trying to make the area better and dry and keep the mosquitoes at bay and all of the other issues that I have, because I can't use 90% of my property because it's a mud pit.
Yep.
I can't even mow my grass unless I go all the way around the street to come back to the alleyway and mow the back end. So it's a hardship on me just as it is. So I want to make sure that I improve the entire neighborhood, basically.
Other than this garage that you're proposing to construct, did you build anything else on this property?
How do you mean?
Did you install the swimming pool?
We had to remove the old swimming pool because when we purchased it, it had been lifted from the ground. So we re-engineered that as well. And we put actually extra storage capacity for water because of the area of wetness. So we put extra gravel in around the pool area too.
So when you moved in, you had to replace the in-ground swimming pool.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you construct the masonry shed that's on the property?
No, ma'am.
So other than this new garage that you're proposing, you've only replaced the actual in-ground swimming pool.
That's correct.
Everything else that's.
Everything
on
else
there-
is as is. And the old swimming pool, if you have old pictures of it, we removed a lot of impervious because there was a huge deck around it. So we removed that to put some actual grass space back into the yard.
How long ago did you do that?
2018.
Do you have a copy of the permit that you submitted to the township that showed the calculations?
I believe I can get it. I don't have one on me.
It might be beneficial, I think, for this board to see how much was removed as well.
Yeah.
That's a mitigating factor. Yeah.
Yep.
I can try to find it. That was the builder that did it, but
Okay.
So, Mr. Badalowski, getting back to the actual garage you're proposing to build, I see that in your application, you make note that you're hoping to have, it seemed like I understand you want that second floor attic storage for seasonal stuff and
Mhm.
our parts and tools and the like, but I also saw that in your application, you said the higher roof ridge, the steeper pitch will be more aesthetically pleasing for the neighbors.
Yes.
It, as a compromise, and I'm curious to see what public comment has to say about all this, because there are houses on the other side of that alley, but would it be the end of the world for you to shrink that height down?
I'd lose a lot of storage space if I did.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I'm asking you, what's more, is it more important for you to have the ability to put cars and the storage unit in the bays, or is it more important for you to have that second floor storage area?
I'd like to have.
You'd like to have both,
Ideal
obviously.
world, yes. But to get all of the equipment and cars out of the elements and not leaving in the yards.
I mean, and
that would be a
maybe
preference.
it's an option of the backside of the building that faces your house. Maybe that's 2 stories. It's up a little higher. So it's almost like a salt box style house where, that might solve for what some of the neighbors on the other side of the alley are looking for and still give you storage area up there. I'm just trying to problem
Understood.
solve what I think is going to be a problem in public comment.
Yeah, I don't think the other side neighbors have an issue with that, but
Oh, I'm just curious. And
understood.
and
Understood.
Barbara brought it up also, the height of it. So basically what I'm trying to do is give you solutions if this turns out to be a problem.
Understood. Thank you.
Think it through.
Understood. Appreciate it.
From a builder's standpoint, the height, the 25 foot was attained by having a 10-foot garage door, a 12-foot ceiling. So the truss itself is an attic truss, attic style. So the main first floor is a square 12-foot high ceiling. And so the roof edge actually starts from the 12-foot ceiling and goes up on an 8-12 pitch. And that creates a room up in the truss itself. It's an attic truss. So there is no actual second floor per se or built. It's not built up. It's just a 16-foot wide room down the middle at the highest part of the roof. So lowering that would essentially take away that attic room. It's really in order to get the 10-foot high doors that he needs for the boat and the trailer.
Yeah, I understand. I understand 10-foot doors, 12-foot ceiling on the first floor, and then you're using prefabbed roof trusses.
Correct.
So, I mean, we could always frame a roof up there. We don't have to use prefab, and we could, like I said, have a salt box. If you frame the roof instead of using prefab trusses, you could still have the majority of the storage pushed to the back where the front of the roof. So instead of maybe being 25 feet, it was, just making numbers up, 22 feet. You still have like 8 foot of clearance at the back part.
I guess really depending on what gets approved, we'd have to see what we can design based on the.
By the way, I haven't made a decision on how I feel about any of this, but like I said, I'm just trying to give you guys possible solutions.
Appreciate it.
Actually, I think I'll see if there is any public comment right now. Is there any public comment in the room here? Okay, come forward. You can turn the microphone on at the lectern there. You'll need to be sworn in.
Is it already on? Yes.
Could you state and spell your full name, please?
Deborah Schaefer, DeborahSchaeffer.
Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Yes.
Address, and we need your address too.
Better. I'm at 118 Walnut Lane, the neighboring property.
Okay.
Just gonna hold it. So I just have concern about a few items relative to the proposed accessory structure. Obviously, the overall impact of the height of the building. I currently have a 35 by 25 foot garage. It was actually on that Google Maps. I'm not sure my height, but obviously it's going to take away from some of the openness of the neighborhood. But my biggest concern is the impact to the existing drainage issue that is predominantly at the lowest point of my property between our two. So if you looked at the page one of two of his submittal, the lowest point, and I do have some, also have some pictures. Over time in 2017, I moved in 2015, it's gotten deeper in the area. I don't know what rain events these are, but I can tell you that it's just has been grossly an issue from a mosquito haven perspective, in addition to the fact that the geology is mostly clay, so the percolation of any infiltration is very slow. So that's my biggest concern. And then also, which you've raised as a committee, the design of the page of the storm tank system. I wasn't sure how large that was or what the capacity was, and if it would alleviate one, the increase in the impervious surface of the area in addition to the existing drainage issue. So may I submit these as exhibits?
Yes, you can. You're welcome.
All right, so we have 4 pages. First page from January 25th, 2017 is 4 photos. Second page, December 2nd of 18, another picture from December 2nd of 18, and the last one is 4/6 of this year. We can mark these collectively as Schaefer 1.
So may I proceed? So I did have a couple of questions. One is, obviously, without knowing what page 2 of 2 is, has a percolation test been done in the area in addition to whatever the volume has been proposed for the storm basin?
No, calculations were made by my engineer.
Another question I had was specific to the survey. The base survey that is on the proposed page 1 of 2 is similar to a 2018 survey from a topographical standpoint. So I was wondering if after the pool was installed, if a new survey was actually conducted.
No.
They were my main concerns, essentially. And may I submit this other survey from January of 2018 that shows the same topo?
You certainly can.
And we'll mark this, it's a plan of survey, 118 Walnut, dated 9/29/15, by Monarch Surveying and Engineering, Bruce R. McKenna. And we can mark this as Schaefer 2.
So just to sum up, my biggest concern is just the drainage issue and the increase in impervious surface. And I understand that a stormwater basin is to be proposed as part of a joint effort with the accessory structure, but I still believe it may still increase the existing and exacerbate the existing conditions that I'm experiencing. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, obviously. And if I may, I did check over just real roughly what their calculations show, and it is a sizable amount of storage that they have for stormwater, although I don't know how much. And once they provide that, then we can more adequately evaluate that.
Thank you.
Just state and spell your full name and your address too, please.
My name is Bruce Witt, first name Bruce, last name Witt, and we're at 122 Walnut Lane.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes. With the letter that was sent out, I appreciate greatly all the effort that you've put into as far as
Please
trying to mitigate the situation.
please use the mic.
Okay.
Take it out of there. If you
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. No, appreciate the effort you're putting as far as trying to mitigate the issues. My concerns were the same as the neighbor as far as number one, being concerned about the increase, the impervious surface ratio. We're at the end where we have the combination of the wetlands and the woodlands and the creek, that the small little stream that flows back and into those back areas there. So we were concerned when we initially just received the letter without the additional information that's been provided tonight. We have questions as far as what's that going to do with the present situation. I know there are photos that have been submitted as far as this spring with the amount of rain that we had in March and April. Not that there were ever extremely heavy storms, but with the amount of rain, things got saturated and there was a lot of water in everybody's backyard in that section there. The area with the small little stream behind us, a small creek, was well over what I've seen for a long period of time as far as what happened. Second issue is the height of the accessory structure. With the zoning, the maximum is 15 feet. That 25 feet is going quite a bit above the 15 feet that's allowed at the present time.
Well, with regard to the height, do you have an opinion on that? You are our neighbor here.
With it being where we're located, it's not going to affect me as much as it is the next door neighbor. Their yard extends further to the back. We're behind, what's behind us are the tennis courts. And with the trees and everything, we wouldn't really see exactly where, we may see a part of the building to the back there. It's not going to impact us as much as it might the folks that would be along Ferry and be on the other side of the alley from there. It would be a question of, again, if it's being set back farther, we may be able to see a part of that. But again, it's zoned for the 15 feet for a reason. That 25 feet would be quite a bit higher considering the homes along that area. We have a raised ranch at the end of the block, on the end of the cul-de-sac there. Most of the other houses that are along this, on that side of the street, are all ranch homes at that location. So it would be opposed to the 25 feet as far as being that high in the back there.
So I'd like to point out that my neighbor Deborah Schaefer, who just testified, has a garage that is similar in size and shape, and it's over the 15-foot variance. I think the person that built it, who owned the home before her, didn't have a permit to put that in, and she had to get permitted after the fact. In addition, in my neighborhood, I think I count 6 to 10 detached garages that have second stories that are well over 25 foot that either have had a variance or they were installed without the township's knowledge. So it's not uncommon to see a large extra structure on a property in the neighborhood. So I'm not sure where the opposition comes from, especially since it would be right next to one that is over the 15-foot limit.
But thank you for the opportunity for the public comment.
Okay. Is there any comment online? Before I go back to the board here?
Are you planning on removing any trees?
No,
Can you describe the aesthetics of the new building? Being how high it is, I know a lot of times with these pole barn type structures, they can be, colors can really help something either blend in or stick out.
I plan to blend it in with the color of my house, actually. So that natural tan, cream color, and the browns.
Okay, we have public comment coming in from online. Or we're waiting for them to get let into the room. Wonder of Teams meetings or Google Meet. Okay. Thought the new equipment was supposed to help solve that.
Hello?
Hello, you're on. So
Yes,
can you state your name and address and be sworn in?
Yes, I'm speaking for my wife Jill and I, Walter Olivant, Olivant, and we live at 9 Oak Avenue. The
Solemnly
property,
swear the testimony about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, listening to all the comments, I had 3 or 4 things to say, but we asked that no variance be granted by the township for this. The proposed building is larger than most houses in this little grouping in the back. We live in a rancher. The square footage is 1,300 feet plus a garage. Darren's house is probably the same. Our next door neighbor, who's on the other side of the easement, probably about 1,200 feet. Deborah, who spoke, she also has a rancher. She is the woman who has the garage in the back of her yard. The large building that Darren proposes would probably house 6 to 8 cars and have enough storage space to fit half of the things in my house. I have 3 children. We use our garage for some storage and the attic for some. We have a standing water issue in the back of everybody's property. Now, the standing water issue has to be addressed. I practice environmental engineering, so I'm on the page with all your engineers. I know stormwater management like the back of all your hands. Not very well, but enough that I can say when I address it, it's going to bring up a big issue. The parkland that sits behind Darren's property, Deborah's property, and the tennis court's property is owned by LMT, I believe. And that houses many fox, deer, other habitat. We have ducks that come in the back of the property sometime if the water sits back there. wild turkeys and the bunnies and the squirrels and all the little fun birds that are back there. But this is not just stormwater we're talking about. The problem on Deb's property and Darren's is a stormwater issue related to the other gentleman who lived behind them. And that comes from what is really an intermittent stream that predates the tennis court from the 1920s. So we're talking over 100 years, there was an intermittent stream coming through some of that township property, coming through Deb's property, Darren's property, the back of my property, into our neighbor's property, into the alleyway, around the alleyway, across West Ferry, down to the river. That's not just stormwater management. I've tried to talk to Darren about some of these issues, but the size of this building is huge. Like I said, it's larger than our house and all their houses. The height of it, I cannot see needing a height of 25 feet to put cars. I mean, I really can't. It's just excessive. The back of our house, my bedroom, the kitchen, the dining room, the bathroom, and our sunroom all look out on that property. I can see the forest behind the tennis courts in the sky. You put in anything higher than 15 feet, I can't see the forest anymore or the sky. Whether it's 8 feet off the easement or 20 feet, the more you back it up from that easement, I'm just looking at his storage shed, which is no longer a storage shed. Like I said, I can keep 2 of my families in there. And I have 5 people in my family. I'm not joking. I mean, we could definitely fit two size families in the storage shed he's talking about. The increase in impervious cover alone is not just the 1,750 feet from this access storage building, which it's not. This is a building for Darren's cars, and I don't see any of his cars right now because when he purchases cars, they're sitting on his driveway. Every now and then he drives one through his backyard and, up and down the pool, guys come in and go. But that increase in impervious cover is 1,750 feet for the storage building. And if you look at the drawings that you guys just had up, it's an additional 400 feet for the concrete slab that's going to be in front of the garage. So that's 2,150 extra square feet. I mean, if the building were half the size, which is probably the size of Deb's shed and storage area that may have not gotten permission to be over 15 feet. And if I had to estimate, I would say her garage might be 16 feet. If it was 17 feet, I might be off a foot, but there's a set of windows that are about 8 feet high. And then the building looks like it's twice that size. Now I've been in there and there's no extra like storage than what Darren said he needs. But in addition to this, Darren has removed 8 to 10 trees in the last year or so. 8 to 10 trees. Some of them are 3-foot diameter trees. So removing them is only going to increase this summer into this fall and the next year and for the next like however many years, the amount of water that sits in the back. And that just addresses, like I said, the initial issues of what I'm saying is the building is way too large. It's going to literally be in the back of my house. It's all I'm going to look at. For Darren, it's 300 feet removed from where his house is. It's 200 feet behind his pool. For me, it's 75 feet. I look at this thing. So when I'm standing washing the dishes in the kitchen or looking out the bathroom or the bedroom windows and sitting in that sunroom, the only thing I'm going to see back there is not the beautiful trees that were there, is not the beautiful forest behind the tennis court or the sky. It's going to be a storage shed that's, like I said, twice the size of the neighbors, larger than my house, no reason to be 25 feet high. Darren doesn't have a boat yet, doesn't have his lawn maintenance equipment sitting back there, nothing. He has a 2-car garage. Him and his wife each have a car. I don't believe they have any children or other accessories that need to be like, stored off-site. But if so, I mean, that's his prerogative. I like Darren. He's a nice guy and all that. But when you look at the size of what he's talking about and the water increase, that's huge. Now, I understand there's some basin area and, we're talking about just behind Darren's pool that he had to put in because the neighbor left him with a pool that was rather old and unworthy of using. So I understand he put in his new pool, whether increase the size of the drainage or not. The pool sits in the area that right behind it, yes, the water sits. Behind his property and Deb's property, the water sits. But we're talking storm after storm. That water sits there. Now, let me go through a case. I've been here since the 1990s. So Hurricane Floyd maybe came around 1999, over a foot of water sat in everybody's backyard from 20 feet off my backyard through Darren's and Deborah's, over a foot. His storage tank area and that decision to help mitigate some of the water that sits there, we're talking, I think somebody said 1,100 cubic feet. If I do the math, 7.5 gallons per cubic foot, we're talking less than 10,000 gallons that can hold. Less than 10,000 gallons. The water that sits in Darren's property alone, when we get that much rain, has to be the size of his swimming pool or more, which I'm guessing is 30 or 40,000 gallons. It's only going to be fed more so from Deb's property. Because if he takes all that water and puts it in these nice storage tanks, which are going to be underground, who knows what that's going to do for mosquitoes or not. But it's going to just have the water go from Deb's property then more to his, which is going to be more mine. That's without his proposed building. That's without a proposed building. That's what I told Darren. It's a nice idea to put something back there, but unless you're going to build something, which I had no idea until 3 days ago he was going to build something, that there's no reason to do something like that because you're trying to prevent an intermittent stream from stopping. In nature, you're not going to stop nature just by putting some barrels in the ground. They're going to be full and the next storm's going to overfill. Then there's the issue that right now water drains off of that easement, the stone driveway, which I use as my driveway. Our next door neighbor at 11 Oak Ave, Keith and Karen uses their driveway. The water sits in Keith's property. So Darren's shed being as close as he's talking, if it's within 100 feet of that driveway, it's going to increase the flow down that driveway. The more water that sits in my backyard between the driveway and midway through my, backyard, and the neighbor across has already got water sitting in theirs. So the water issue is just going to be increased by putting in impervious cover of a structure that's 1,750 feet, plus an additional 400 feet for this concrete slab in front. That doesn't seem excessive. It seems overly excessive. The stormwater hasn't been addressed to the point that it just sits in the backyard, let alone taking down 8 to 10 trees, which he's already done, and proposing a building larger than my house, his house, and all the neighbors' houses right there. The people on West Ferry don't really have a view of his property because they all have trees behind them. So it becomes a moot point for most of the people along Ferry because they're not viewing that. This will be directly behind my house, which if you look at this plan, you have Deborah's property, Darren's property, and my property is the next one. This is 75 feet behind my house, not 300. And the mosquito issues are going to remain. The forest is the forest, the habitat is the habitat. You can't change that wetlands habitat and the intermittent stream. So for all these reasons, I say, this isn't just a stormwater issue. This is an oversized proposed building. Shouldn't be any more than 15, 16 feet high if he gets approval for any of that. And this whole storage tank idea of like controlling the water, not going to work for an intermittent stream, not going to work. Thank you very much. If you have any questions back to me, I can try to answer them as an engineer.
Okay, at this point, do you have anything you want to add at this point before I turn it back over for board questions?
No.
Okay.
So I just like to make a few points. I commend the applicant for being forthright about the fact that an existing flooding condition does exist on his property. And not only does he show up with pictures, but it's designated on the plan. Your honesty is appreciated. So when I look at this plan, I think to myself, I love that you're going to have the ability to start capturing some of this flood water, which will mitigate a condition that exists, right? So to me, that's like a great thing. It could be real positive for all the neighbors. But to Barbara's point, which was a really good point, I don't see, if you're going to put a 35 by 50 foot garage in there, like I think that needs to have its own independent stormwater management, possibly a seepage bed just for that. Because I don't see how the stormwater throw off from this building is going to travel all the way to your underground tanks. I don't know, maybe the topography is such that it can.
And there would be leaders from it as well.
So it does, the contour does point there. It's still a lot of throw off. And, look, to me, again, what you're showing here, and then when I think about the stormwater that's going to come off this building, I'd feel way better if there was the downspouts were tied into a bed that might be right behind it. That's just me. Regarding the height of the building, so you make some points about the neighbors and existing. So I'm assuming the majority of them were grandfathered in. Our code gets rewritten periodically over the years. So in the case of your neighbor, Ms. Schaefer, and she had to apply for a permit, right? So it would have been a real hardship for her to have to tear that garage down. So it's almost like a no-brainer to permit something like that. Now, granted, this board wasn't part of that decision either, to be clear. But I just want you to understand kind of how that would have worked back when she needed to ask for a variance.
Understood.
So the fact that people have been granted variance or they've been grandfathered in, it's really not something that we're supposed to consider as a board. So I don't want you to think if it doesn't go your way, we're treating you unfairly.
No, and I'm looking back in the last 5 years, I've seen some variances granted for external buildings with 2 stories. So that's why I applied for one.
Okay. I'm done saying my comments.
Matt and Mike, anything additional?
I like the stormwater plan. I think the neighborhood needs it. And I think this gentleman is, actually in some ways making the neighborhood better. If you look at that one, the lowest spot in the entire neighborhood is at 116. It's directly right outside of his pit. So the lady who spoke before, the next door neighbor, I mean, I only see it benefiting her property by him putting this in. I mean, if it's oversized, I think that it does better for the neighborhood. It should drain everybody. If you look at the way everybody's going in, he's kind of the lowest point. I think it helps.
I had previously requested that the neighbors all work together with me to mitigate it for all of us, but nobody wanted to join in. So I wanted to oversize so I can mitigate it so it doesn't filter back to my property. And if it does, I can contain it.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, to your point, this could be something that could be fabulous. This flooding condition could really be mitigated other than, 75 and 100-year events.
It only makes it better. It's not making it worse.
That there's also the issue of the actual variant, other part of the variance is, of course, the height of the garage.
I mean, I think the biggest problem with the height of the garage is the fact that this thing is bigger than a lot of the houses in the neighborhood. And not that that's necessarily a horrible thing, but I could see it being in a bit of an anomaly in the neighborhood. Now, Mr. Bodolowski's saying it's not. I don't, without being able to drive your neighborhood, I can sit here and just say, I can see why people are concerned about it. I can definitely have a problem with 25 feet.
I can understand and appreciate that, but I am surrounded by trees. I'm surrounded by houses. I'm basically landlocked from the road in the backyard. So there's minimal people that would be impacted. And if Walt is looking out of his back door, he sees another accessory structure. It's just one would be closer to him. So I'm not displacing anyone. I'm not trying to use my property for the purposes that I would like to use them for.
Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, you certainly may. Sure.
Mr. Bodolowski, in light of the comments that have been raised on the township's concern and opposition, especially to the height, and part of that is because people install these accessory structures that tend to have a second floor And all of a sudden, lo and behold, 10 years from now, we're going to have somebody living in the second floor. Okay. That's a
Understood.
big issue. Is there any possibility of you reconsidering the overall size of this structure that might help reduce the height as well? I mean, you're looking at, your house is about 1,800 square feet. More or less.
Correct.
You're looking at a garage, it's supposed to be a secondary structure that's going to be 1,750 square feet.
Yes, ma'am.
It's like having another house on the lot.
And I wish I could convey, I have classic cars. Classic cars are longer and wider and bigger than most new cars. I'm trying to preserve them. I'm trying to preserve the history of them. I'm trying to preserve them as they were. And in order to do that, you have to protect them from the elements. And I'm trying to do that as well. You have to collect parts because as I'm finding, you can't find parts for a lot of these things. So in order to catalog and keep parts for the things that I would like to continue to enjoy and pass down to my family after I go on, I need some storage area for those things, and it can't all go into the house, or I will be a single man living in a 1,900 square foot house.
I'm just saying, is there a way to possibly reconfigure or reconsider the size? I mean, obviously, you purchased the property, you knew the size of the house.
And the size of the property, which I had planned to put a garage on, since there was one right next door to the house that I was looking to buy. I thought that an external accessory building wouldn't be an issue, since there was one right next door. I'm learning that.
Well, I mean, I've been in a lot of pole barns and accessory buildings with classic cars. I mean, I've been in a few with north of 30 cars. So, you know, I'm aware that you can park one on top of the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
If you have height.
yeah, well, 12 feet you can, right? With a 12-foot ceiling. So you're able to basically stack two. So realistically, I mean, when I look at this, I know factually with the way you have your doors configured, it would be no problem for you to get easily 12 classic cars in here if they're double stacked. Because you're
If I can afford the lifts to put them on.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm saying though, but
Understood.
I think the board's we're struggling less with the fact that this is 50 by 35 feet, more with the fact that it's 25 feet high. You may need to pick your poison. Yeah. Yeah.
Come down short.
Yeah. Yeah, the neighbors, we
Fine, I
just
think
pointed out
if
the
if
neighbors.
we could get the
garage.
height down, I think it kind of helps everybody.
And the height to what? Do we have a
20?
recommendation on how high I can go? To
20
see?
feet?
Well, generally, I mean, the board, I don't think the board can
Yeah.
give you an idea, but you know, Mike's kind of giving you a something that would be reasonable. Do we want to like, you know, give you you know, push this to the next meeting, give you a chance to do your calculations and think about, you know, what you could get the height down to?
We could come down to 20.
Matt's making a good recommendation. Perhaps you want to ask for a continuance and think about this a little bit and bring in more information the next time.
And the other reason why a continuance would be a good idea, Matt earlier discussed possibly pushing this a little further off the alley. So you could come up with a plan where on the plan, instead of it being, Jim, what did you say, 12 and a half and about 16 and a half?
But that increases impervious area. There are trade-offs to doing that.
There are trade-offs to doing that.
And you might not hurt to talk to the neighbors some more.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a lot of our seats, we think this tank is a good thing for the neighbors. But, you know, maybe if you get in front of them and talk it through.
I think we just kind of did that, but I'll try.
Well, calculations will also help with regard to that. It's
right.
You're right. So are you open to a continuance?
So we'll look for a continuance, please.
Oh, and just to be clear, you don't need to push that back. Obviously, you don't need to push that back because of the impervious. So I thought you guys discussed it earlier, but Peter makes a good point about adding additional impervious. So,
Mhm.
and when you come back with calculations, it might make a huge difference to your neighbors when they see the velocity that your tanks can carry. It may make a huge difference.
I have a feeling that might not carry any weight, but I appreciate the suggestion.
And the reason for the continuance is if we make a ruling tonight and it doesn't go in your favor, then you have to come back to us and re-advertise and do all that stuff
Understood.
at an expense. So a continuance saves you that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And you might, and you know, talking about it with the neighbors and that might give you some more insight, what you want to come back with. We can continue it for 2 weeks, or we could continue it to the first meeting in July. I almost think you probably want till the first meeting in July, but you can let it, what would you prefer?
Can we put it on the books for 2 weeks and
We
then
can put it on for
continue?
2 weeks from now.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue 22-1967 to the, at least the 22nd, 21st.
21st.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's where we're at for now.
Thank
See
you.
you in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Next up is Appeal 22-1968, Joseph and Angela Kearns. And you need to state, actually, all three of you need to state your names. You're all going to talk. If you're not going to talk, you don't need to state your name and then get sworn in.
Kimberly Smith from Begley, Carlin, and Mandio.
Richard Stoneback, I'm the project engineer,
Are you listening?
STONE-BACK.
Name, sir?
Joseph Kearns,
Into the microphone, please, Scott.
JOSCPHKEARNS, property owner.
Do you both solemnly swear the testimony about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, Adam's going to do the exhibits in then.
We have the application as A1, site plans as A2. We have a deed, which we will mark as A3. Proof of publication B1, B2, proof of posting, and B3, notice to the neighbors.
Good evening, Kimberly Smith from Begley, Carlin, and Mandio, here on behalf of the applicant Joe Kearns. The subject property is located at the intersection of Big Oak Road and Makefield Road. It is located in the R2 district of the township and is approximately 1.6 acres. As you see from the site plan that was prepared for tonight, this is a very oddly configured lot. The property is an L shape that actually straddles the existing gas station. It is currently vacant and has most likely not been improved previously because of its odd configuration. If you look at the plan, you'll see that the property backs up to Rock Run Creek, and there's a 100-year floodplain at the rear of the property. To be clear at the outset here, the applicant is not planning to disturb the floodplain in any way whatsoever. But because of the existing floodplain, there is a strange triangular shaped building coverage. So the board is aware Mr. Kearns is not intending to subdivide this property or sell it. This property, he is intending to build a residence for himself, his wife, and his 7 children. And under the ordinance, there is a minimum front yard setback of 80 feet. We are here tonight for one variance, and that is to permit a front yard setback of 60 feet. Otherwise, this plan is compliant with all other zoning requirements. Unless the board has any initial questions for me, I do have Joe Kearns here, the applicant, as well as Rick Stoneback to offer testimony.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, Joe. State your name for the record.
Joseph Kearns.
And
Joseph Kearns.
are you the owner of the subject property?
Yes.
And when did you purchase this property?
April 2022.
Okay. And when you purchased this property, do you intend to build a residence there on it?
Yes.
Okay. And approximately how many square footage is the proposed residence?
4,500.
Okay. And is the property currently vacant?
Yes.
And it's a little over 1.6 acres, is that right?
Correct.
All right. And you don't intend to subdivide this property, correct? You're only seeking to build one house?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that there is a creek that is behind your property and a floodplain at the rear,
Yes.
but you do not intend to disturb that area at all, correct?
No.
Okay. And due to the odd building envelope and you have to build the property in the front yard setback to provide adequate side yard for the school that's directly beside you, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And that front yard setback that we're requesting tonight is 60 feet, correct?
Yes.
And that will give you and your family a sufficient amount of backyard space?
Yes.
Okay. And to your left, we have Rick Stoneback, who's here with us tonight. You retained him to do some stormwater management, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this plan does not require any other dimensional relief that you are aware of, such as building coverage, impervious service, or other setbacks, right?
Correct.
Okay. And are you familiar with the surrounding properties?
Yes.
And many of those surrounding properties have less of a front yard setback, correct?
Yes. About half of what I got.
So what we are proposing tonight will be consistent with the surrounding properties.
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of any reason whatsoever why this would be detrimental to the surrounding area?
No.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Joe at this time?
Why don't you finish your presentation and then we'll have our questions.
Okay, yeah, that works. Okay, Rick, state your name for the record, please.
Yes, it's Richard Stoneback. I'm the president of Charles Shoemaker Incorporated. I have graduated from Penn State and have licenses in Pennsylvania as a professional land surveyor and also as a professional engineer. And we specialize in site development for single-family homes, residential developments, institutional schools, senior living, and retail. So that's what we do. We do a lot of it. And our company is, as I may have mentioned, is Charles E. Shoemaker. And we, for about 50 years, we're located in Abington. And in the last year, we have moved to Montgomeryville. We were retained by Joe to get him the approvals to build his house for his family with a lot of the input that he gave us with respect to the building size and the property. We delineated the 100-year floodplain from the FEMA mapping. The setback to the rear to the floodplain is 45 feet. So there's an additional 45 feet between the structure and the floodplain. And why we're here tonight is the front yard. Big Oak Road is identified in the zoning ordinance as a collector road, which is kind of what it says. It's more than a normal residential road. It carries more traffic and has the potential for future improvements. So the requirement for the right-of-way of a collector road is 80 feet, which means on our side, we're 40 feet from the center. So from the center of the paving to the right-of-way line, which is roughly where the sidewalk is built, is 40 feet. The front yard requirement increases on a collector road from what is normally required, and it's 80 feet. So essentially from the center of the road to the front of the house would have to be 80 plus the 40 or 120 feet. which is really pushes the house back far, increases the length of the driveway, and in effect increases impervious coverage, reduces the area in the backyard, and forces the house up against the buffer yard from the 100-year floodplain. So while we'll still be 45 feet from the 100-year floodplain, you'll see that the building area becomes triangular. And while the house that he has come up with for large family is roughly 60 by 55, it's about, the footprint's about 3,600. I think he told me the living area is somewhere a little over 4,500. And it's roughly 66 by 50. Would have a driveway coming off Big Oak and side entrance garage. And the area in the 45-foot can be developed with a patio or a pool. So we've designed some encroachment into the 45, which is permitted by code, to account for that. And we've designed a stormwater management system that would handle all of the runoff from what's proposed now, plus additional. Our impervious coverage, as with the house, is about 10%, and 18 is permitted. We did soil testing for the stormwater management system, found evidence of high groundwater, which isn't unusual when you're near a stream. So we have to have a very shallow system. We can't go deep, or the groundwater would fill up the system. So we're designed something akin to a rain garden. I don't know if you've seen rain gardens in your township, but it's a very shallow ponding area that would have plants that are designed or selected based upon their ability to sustain themselves in the wet conditions, and also to help absorb the water through transo evaporation. So the request for the 20-foot reduction in the front yard, quite frankly, allows us to slide the house more to the center of the site, because we're not pinched in that triangle. And it allows us to create a larger side yard to the school. There's only a 15-foot side yard required to the school, and we're hoping that we'll be able to have something in the 30-foot range, closer to 30 foot than to the 15 that's required, by sliding the house more to the right with a 20-foot reduction in the front yard. Now, we also included in our submission package an aerial photos that show all the other homes along Big Oak Road. Just a quick look at the photograph. You'll see very quickly. You'll see very quickly that the homes.
With the microphone.
You'll see very quickly that the homes are much, much closer to the road, and have roughly 60 feet to 50 feet to the center of Big Oak Road. So this home will be back twice as far as most of the homes on the street. And we think that given the unusual characteristics of the site, that we have a reasonable hardship to move the house 20 foot closer.
Rick, do you think that the 60-yard setback that we're requesting tonight is reasonable?
Yes.
And it will be 60, oh, I'm sorry, 60 feet.
60 feet.
Yes.
Yes.
Be reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. And consistent with the surrounding area?
Yes.
And that this is probably this is the best location for this residence on this site due to the irregularities of the building footprint, the floodplain, the irregular shape, having 2 front yards.
Yes, and it's a 1.6 acre lot. It's very unusual because it has double frontage in the stream. I think this actually will be a better design than pushing the house back and tight to the 45-foot setback.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions?
Board questions first.
Hey, Jim, this question's for our township engineer, Jim. Is the 45-foot buffer, is that the exact buffer area from the floodplain, or is it greater? Is that accurate, what I'm asking you?
That's the building setback from the floodplain. When they delineated the floodplain, it's actually a studied stream. They have elevations associated with the floodplain, and they map that out accurately. So it's 45 feet to where they show the building setback box in the plan, and they actually have a little more room from there to the house.
Okay.
And to the stream, it's over 100 feet away.
So we're not dealing with a buffer here?
No, there's no buffer from a floodplain. There's a buffer from a water course. The water course buffer is completely within the floodplain.
Okay.
So therefore, they just have the building setback from the floodplain, which we have that in ordinance that all setbacks are measured from resource protected lands, so that you do have a free and clear yard area from the house to a resource, so that you could actually put a swing set or do whatever you need to do in that area without encroaching upon the resource, which in this case is the floodplain.
Thank you.
And can you confirm that the Big Oak's full, it's at the full build out? There's no plans for expansion?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So Big Oak, it's at the full build out, correct?
Yeah, I don't think PennDOT ever anticipates ever widening it out further than is already. That section of the road is pretty much all widened out. They have the sidewalk out there, so there would be no widening that would impact this development.
Okay.
Okay, I believe the township has comments, so Mrs. Kirk.
Yes, thank you. And again, the township's just participating. We're not opposing the application. Mr. Stoneback, if I'm looking at the plan where the 45-foot rear yard line is designated, it's attached to another green line that goes down triangular-like. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, that's the building envelope.
Okay. Is that building envelope line set so that it's a 45-foot yard or setback from any point along that envelope line to the floodplain?
Yes.
Is there any intention of any permanent structure being built within that 45-foot rear yard?
There may be an accessory use someday, a pool. I don't know, better question for Joe, maybe a pool.
Because as I understand, your request is to eliminate the 80-foot front yard setback in order to preserve that 45 feet in the rear yard along the floodplain, correct?
Just so my family and my 7 kids have a backyard, because right now we really wouldn't have a backyard.
Concern.
For the 1.6 acres that I truly have on the property.
So the concern, I think, that the township has to a certain extent is maintaining a free backyard along that floodplain area, so that as a result of you requesting the front yard variance. Other than a pool, which would be, I guess, a permanent structure, is there any intention of building an addition?
No. The house is built for my family and that's it. No other permanent structures.
Was there any discussion or suggestion made of doing some sort of restriction on the land that would preserve that 45 feet rear yard, so that, say, something happens 10 years from now, you have to sell the property, we don't have the buyer coming in trying to build in that area?
No, we didn't have those discussions, but I mean, I assume if the new owner were to come in, then they would have to go through certain zoning relief and even land use relief then. But as far as the discussions that we've had, we haven't had any discussions with the township about setting up any type of preservation area there.
Would you be open to preserving the floodplain?
The floodplain's already preserved. I'm only, the 45 foot is
Yes.
my property.
Yeah.
So in other words, what we're saying, because the township, because you're asking the board, in order for you to preserve that 45 feet on your property, which is preserving the floodplain, you're asking for 20 feet less in the front yard. Are you willing to do something in writing that would preserve that 45 feet in perpetuity?
I still be allowed, I'm going to be honest with everybody. My plans are to put a pool in the future in that 45 foot, but I would never put I would never build an addition off the back of the house.
So, and I'm going to ask Mr. Majewski, being the township's director of community development here. If a pool were intended to be placed within that 45 feet along the floodplain area, would there have to be zoning relief requested?
No, there would be no zoning relief required. That is just for the principal building to be set back. And as I stated before, the reason why they had that building setback or principal building setback from the resource protection land is so that it affords a homeowner the opportunity to have a usable backyard, to put in a swing set, have a place to play, even put in a pool or a shed, an accessory building that would be in compliance with our zoning ordinance.
So then I guess the restriction would be, in order to preserve that 45 feet rear yard setback, that there be no structures built that would be an extension of the principal structure.
And actually, if they did try to put anything back in that 45-foot area, like extend the house, that would require another variance, because now they'd be encroaching on the rear yard setback.
Okay. And based on your calculations, it doesn't make sense to try to turn the house in any way to try to glean a little more footage for the front yard.
Well, I'm working with the house that I was given.
It makes more
If
sense
you
than to
had
have it facing.
if you had an
you know,
L-shaped house where the back of the L, side of the L was the school side, it would fit in there. But I still think with the 100-foot, it would become very tight in order to get it in.
Yeah, and I think actually, Mr. Connors had a question about putting an easement on it. I think he was talking about the floodplain, if I'm not mistaken. Would you be willing to preserve that floodplain area in a written form? Is that correct, Mr. Connors?
That's correct. If we could put a deed restriction on the floodplain as identified.
I was told I was never allowed to build there anyway, so that as long as
Yeah.
I can put a pool in the 45-foot buffer, that's all I care about.
Yeah,
The conservation easement wouldn't really impact anything. It would just quantify that floodplain area that you can't build. So it would be part of the deed and wouldn't be subject to a future homeowner thinking they could go back there within the floodplain.
So I think what Mr. Majewski's better saying is, you know that you're not supposed to build back.
Oh, yeah. I talked to Jim about,
Mr. Kearns, can you just speak into the microphone?
I did talk to Jim about that. My only concern is, and Jim, you could probably answer this. I know Rick knows, my building envelope, I can pretty much do what I want in the building envelope. If I cannot do anything in the 45-foot buffer. That's correct.
It's a setback.
The setback.
What you cannot put a building,
Yes.
a principal
Yes.
building back there.
Yes, but I can put the pool back there or a swing
Yes.
set. Yes.
And I think what one of the board members was asking is where it shows where it's at, between the creek and where it shows the limit of the floodplain. Would you be willing to put some sort of restriction on your deed that says that area cannot have any type of structure or construction in it?
Yes.
Thank you.
And construction is pretty limiting. Would that affect the pool? for
We're just
the,
talking in the floodplain, not
in the
setback,
floodplain.
In the
In the
floodplain.
floodplain.
I understand, Barbara.
got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm
My
asking
apologies.
because this comes up quite often in the town where people want to build in a floodplain and it's very difficult.
Yeah, no.
And so,
I'm not talking about the 45-foot setback area. I'm talking about the actual floodplain area.
No problem with that.
okay.
As Matt said, this does come up from time to time where people aren't aware that the floodplain is a restriction. And we actually have a future application coming up where the neighbor's all worried about the other neighbor building in the floodplain, and then they built a shed within the floodplain. So.
And unfortunately, people tend not to call ahead of time. They tend to do first build and then come back.
Well, our rain garden will be sized for any additional impervious that may happen around the pool.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. That's very good. All right. Is there any comment online? No. Okay. Any more comments from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve appeal number 22-1968 as submitted on the plan, but with a recorded either deed restriction stating that there'll be any development of any type inside the floodplain or as a recorded conservation easement.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any comment? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries as you just heard, and good luck with the project.
Thank you.
I guess briefly, what's on the agenda for next meeting?
Yeah, the next meeting will have several applications that are currently scheduled. One is the Lucas Rams one, I believe is on there. Also, the project at the Point, they do have a revised plan, which you guys will be getting soon. That came from input that was gathered from the Historical Commission, the Historical Architectural Review Board. And that will be on. And then the other one that is currently scheduled is the cell tower at the Brookside Swim Club. So that'll be a busy agenda. And then July 5th, I believe right now we just have 2 applications on for that meeting. That is the day after the
Overrun.
4th of July. So I just wanted to check, is everyone available for that meeting?
I'm available for the 5th. I'm not available for the 21st.
I'm available for the 21st. I'm generally down the shore 4th of July, so I don't know that I would be back for the 5th.
Just join via Teams. It'll be. Do we,
About Mike and Matt, are you guys available on July 5th?
Yep.
I'm good for both meetings. Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure
Yep.
we had a quorum.
Mike, just so you're aware, what was discussed as being on the next meeting is very likely going to extend into a couple of meetings. So just be prepared for that.
Okay.
It might even necessitate a special meeting.
Whatever you need. I'm here for you.
Okay, and also I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're up. Now, Matt, since you're the vice chairman, you got to provide the vice.
What kind of vices would you like?